Welcome back to the Great Books Quest. Today we're going to be talking about Lysistrata. This is the Greek play by Aristophanes, written about 2,500 years ago, and it is about the Peloponnesian War and Aristophanes' parallel dimension, alternate reality universe where the war is ended peacefully by very interesting means. So we have this woman, Athenian woman, Lysistrata, who is fed up with the war, more fed up than anybody else, at least the most fed up enough to take dramatic action and to create a plan. So she sets up an event, a time and place. Be here at this time. Sends out some invites. Time shows up, nobody shows up. A little bit later, finally, one of her friends, an Athenian, Myrrhine, shows up. And how does Lysistrata react? Lysistrata says, "What are you doing dawdling on so vast an affair?" Dawdling about on so vast an affair. Here we see an insight into the character of Lysistrata, or Lysistrata. I've heard it pronounced. Either way is fine. She's not a doormat. She's very expressive. And she's very displeased with her friend for showing up late on such an important... Lysistrata let it be known. She let it be known when she sent out the invitation that it's a very important thing that you have to show up on time. So nobody shows up on time. Now, the next woman that shows up, Lampito, is a Spartan. And this is huge because she's from the opposing side of the war. And Lysistrata was able to get somebody from the opposing side to show up at her event for peace. That's huge. So how does she treat Lampito? Even though she showed up late, Lysistrata says, "Oh, Lampito, so good to see you, dear Spartan girl with the rosy cheeks. It's lovely that you're here." Very different story than with her familiar friend. This goes to show you don't treat everybody the same way. And this illustrates the concept of xenia, or hospitality to strangers, which is prominent throughout this play and many other Greek plays. And that will be huge for Lysistrata's plan, which we'll see later in the video. So, finally, one of her other friends shows up, Kalanaike. So now we have three. It's just Lysistrata and three women. Three Athenians if you count Lysistrata, and one Spartan. And that's how it begins. The plan to save Greece. Now, the key question is, all three women are there. They're intrigued. They want to know, why have you summoned us in this group, in this meeting? Lysistrata is not going to say why immediately. And that's a very smart thing to do. You don't just say, "Okay, this is why you're here. I have this plan, and this is how we're going to save Greece." And that's it. Just say it in 30 seconds. You don't do that. First, you have to sell it. You have to build up the intrigue. You have to ask questions. And that's the key point that I've learned here from this proposal. Asking questions is huge. The first question that Lysistrata asks, and this is an important one, and you see this all the time, is the pain question. You have to ask the pain question. You have to remind them that they're in pain, because if you're not reminded of your pain, you can just kind of forget about it. And that's a good thing, to a certain extent, until the pain leads to all types of terrible realities, such as warfare. So she says, right up front, "When was the last time you saw your husbands? Don't you miss your husbands? Don't you miss your sons too? Everybody's off at war." And the women in particular, they're very missing their husbands. So this pain question, she brings up this pain for them, and they're clearly pained, because as they're discussing things, one woman says, "I will climb a mountain to end this war to have my husband back." The other one says, "I'll go through fire." Another one says, "I'll be cut in half." Obviously, hyperbolic, exaggerated statements, but it shows that they're very invested in what Lysistrata is selling. Even though they don't know exactly what her plan is, they're still intrigued enough, and they're pained enough. They're the ones who are in a lot of pain, and that's why they showed up. Now the next point, after Lysistrata asks the pain question, Lysistrata asks the investment question. And this investment question is key, because this is where Lysistrata determines what kind of leader she is. Is she an authoritarian autocrat who says, this is my plan and you're going to follow it? Or is she more of a communal leader? Does she get assent from those that she wants to lead? And there's a key question that she asks here. She says, after the women that she's gathered together voice their concerns and their pains, she says, now will you help me? Now will you help me if I found a means to stamp the war out? This is such an important question. Now will you help me if I found the means to stamp the war out? So many things that we can dissect about this, but let's go with the first part. Now will you help me? This puts Lysistrata in the subordinate position, because now all of a sudden she's at the mercy of the women. Says, will you help me? I can't do this without you. And that's an undeniable truth. Lysistrata, if she doesn't have the assent, if nobody's willing to participate in her plan that she's created, nothing's going to happen. The war's just going to continue as it is. The pain will just continue. So she said, now will you help me if I find a means to stamp the war out? That second part, will you help me, gets the assent. The second part, if I found the means to stamp the war out, that reiterates that she is in the dominant position, that she is the one who found this plan. It is her plan. So it's a brilliant question, because on the one hand, now will you help me, puts her in the subordinate position, and the second part of the question puts her in the, I want to say rebordinate, but that's not a word, but I like that word, dominant position in the hierarchy. It's like a double, it's this double question that has so many deep meanings, and I like it very much. I like it very much that she asked this question. And she gets more investment. The women say, yes, I'll do this, and as I mentioned before, all the crazy things that they'll do just to end this war. And Lysistrata finally says, in order to end this war, we must abstain, and then just leaves them hanging again. Always builds the intrigue, always builds the suspense. And they say, tell us. And then Lysistrata says again, not going to reveal it yet. She says, will you truly do it then if I tell you? Gutsy move, not a recommended question to ask, because what Lysistrata is asking is for assent, and for not just assent, but complete commitment before even revealing what she is asking them to do. That's a very bold thing to do, and you need complete trust beforehand. If you're going to do something like that, I wouldn't recommend it. But the women say, we'll do it if we must die for it. Myrrhine says that, and nobody disagrees with her. And of course, silence is tacit approval, so they all agree. Silence is tacit approval, and if you don't speak up when somebody makes some kind of commitment and somebody's in the room, then you agree. Silence of the majority. Anyways, once Lysistrata reveals this proposal, the women play a different tune. Myrrhine and Kalonike, her two Athenian friends, are saying, no, I won't do it. Let the war proceed. Because what Lysistrata proposed is complete celibacy. Always a very difficult path throughout human history. But this is the way to stamp the war out. This is the way that I have found to stamp a means to stamp the war out. So the Athenians already are not on board. Even despite all the great sales techniques and tactics, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what she says. If it's too much for them, it's too much. But then Lampito, the Spartan woman, saves the day, because Lampito says, you know what, if this is the price of peace, if this is what it takes, then I'm for it. And you can see the change in Lysistrata, because once Lysistrata tells them this plan, you can see how vulnerable Lysistrata really is. That she talks a big game, she's all leadership and warfare, and we're going to end this, and everything's going to be okay, and the men are going to bow to peace. But then the women say, we're not going to do it. And Lysistrata she gets heated a little bit. She's like, well, what's going on? Why are you crying? Why are your faces red? Why are you trying to leave? What's going on? And then Lampito says, I'll do it. And Lysistrata gets that spiritual oxygen again and says, oh, Lampito, my friend, the only one amid this herd of weaklings. And once Lampito, this is a concept called the first follower. Derek Sivers made this concept popular. He's a great thinker, and it's become quite prominent. If you're just a leader by yourself, you're not a leader until you have that one person, usually one, maybe two, but you only need one who will follow you and who makes your plan concrete. And Lampito, despite being on the opposing side, followed Lysistrata, L and L, Lysistrata and Lampito, and that's what happened. The Athenians, once they see that the Spartan woman is following her plan, they say, you know what? We changed our mind. We'll do it. It's amazing. But we're Athenians, and we're going to be beat by the Spartan. That competitive warfare edge was used instead of destruction, was used for peace and reconciliation. And that's a beautiful thing. We'll see you in the next video. Take care.